And we've been watching closely the reforms that the new government has made. And it's good to see that new government getting off very, very quickly with some very important reforms. I completely understand that they're tough for individuals.
They are.
They are difficult to get through. But quite often countries need to go through those sorts of changes to get to a better place. And I think what we want to do is work with and talk with the government to see the next stages of these reforms go through, because a successful Nigeria, a prosperous Nigeria, is important for all of us, the UK included.
All right, yeah, I think for the better part of the past 3 decades, the analytical, predictions as regarding labor laws, the economy is always, favored and always insinuated that, look, there is a gold mine that is Nigeria, sleeping giant, as they would say. But to particularize your visit, what exactly is the High Commission, and what is, the UK government, trying to do in River State? What are the intentions, the programs, that you have planned for the people in River State?
Well, so as I said, the very first purpose is to get to know people. So I was lucky enough to meet Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor. I also met the former Governor, His Excellency, Dr. Peter Odili, and that was to get a historical perspective.
Yeah.
And I've met members of civil society, and I've met people from the business community as well. So that's all about me learning and about me understanding the dynamic here. But what we would like to do in the south, but particularly in River State, is we'd like to bring and make sure that people are aware of the opportunities that the UK brings. So, for example, in June of this year, we set up a new trading scheme called the Developing Countries Trading Scheme, and the purpose of that was to allow developing countries to import their items into the UK at lower cost and also through an easier process. And, for example, states in the south should be benefiting from that. It should be easier to export the cashews, the cassavas, the plantains, but in the future other things as well into the UK market.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. I mean, in addition to that, there are sets of UK businesses that are interested in investing in states like Rivers on renewable energy, which will be an important development for the state. I think finally, I just want to underline. So when my predecessor was last here earlier in the year, the governor mentioned that he wanted this state to be able to get visas to the UK more easily. And as a consequence of that, we've recently opened up a visa centre here in Port Harcourt. So that's again about not just the business-to-business links, but also the people-to-people links, because that's what makes it possible for people to visit the UK.
So let's talk a little bit about the TLS Application Centre opened in Port Harcourt. And interestingly, in another state that you just visited, Enugu State, lovely state, I have to say, coast. It is very beautiful at night. I don't know if you had the opportunity to go around at night. It is a lovely place at night. So, but let's talk about the centre. Apart from the request from the governor, had this always been in the pipeline? And what's exactly going to be operable or obtainable for Port Harcourt and all the people in the South? Well,
I think we're always looking for ways to improve our services for making sure that people can get access to visas. So we're always thinking about that and having an eye out for it. But I think the fact that the governor was interested really gave us a bit of a boost. And also we knew the figures, the numbers of people who are resident in Port Harcourt who apply for visas. So it was a good thing to try. Now, this is explicitly a test at the moment. We're seeing whether the system works. And what it needs is, the right amount of demand to prove that. And at the moment, we're processing between 50 and 60 applications a day, which is excellent. And in fact, I was lucky enough to go to the visa centre this morning.
This morning, okay.
Absolutely. And I talked to some of the customers there, and they were very positive about the experience. They said it was simpler and it was a positive thing to do. So it's great. And as you mentioned, we've done that in Enugu as well. It's also a test. We have to check whether the demand is there and whether we can give the kind of services we want to give.
Okay. All right. Now, your predecessor, I had the good fortune of actually having a conversation with him, and it's always a very interesting thing when it comes to my next line of inquiry, and that has to do with education, the Chevening scholarship, and the whole organization. Nigeria, and I think the whole of Africa right now, is becoming more interested in education. People are embracing the idea of universal education, so going abroad, studying, and also looking forward to having people also come over to Nigerian universities and study. But if you can, what exactly is going on right now at Chevening?
So, for people who are not aware, Chevening is it's an international scholarship scheme to do either a master's or a fellowship scheme in the UK. The master's is the one that most people do. Some people, if they're mid-career, can do a fellowship for a short focus course, but the majority, as I say, do the master's. And the purpose of that is for the UK to be able to support dedicated and passionate individuals from the countries that they're coming from, and for them to gain a skill and bring it back to their country. But also it has the added benefit of creating an international community. So many of the Nigerian students will go there and will meet students from India, will meet students from Ghana, and there's that sort of crossover there as well. It's a really fantastic opportunity. It opened on the 12th of September, and the closing date is the 7th of November. So I really
of this year.
Oh, okay. So it's an annual thing. Okay. There are always applications at approximately that period. And please, if you're interested, if you're passionate, and if you want to make a difference to Nigeria, and you think that an education in the UK will help with that, then I really would encourage people to apply. I would say it's a slightly complicated application, so don't leave it till the 6th of November. Obviously. Plan ahead.
Okay, so what would they need? Top of your head, what are the things that are most likely going to be required of any prospective student?
Well, you need to demonstrate your interest in your subject. You need to demonstrate your ability to operate in English, your ability to write and to think, but also explain why you want to do it. Why is it going to make a difference? And particularly, why is it going to make a difference to Nigeria?
Well, you see, your last strain of thoughts is going to make me, poke a little bit, because if you say an interested individual has to prove that he can communicate in English, study in English, proficient in English, why then should they have to prove that they can if they're already speaking the language? You and I are communicating with English. I school throughout my entire career as a student, both primary up to university, I was trained in English. So why then do I need to have the test of English as a foreign language requisite to get into many programs? Chevening inclusive?
So that's a university requirement. That's not a British government requirement. That will be the universities making those decisions. And it's a reassurance for them to know the standard of English that a student is coming in with. I think it's important to recognise the different sorts of English. One can be able to have a chat in English, but it becomes much harder to study, microbiology in English, and also to be able to write a complicated essay and write an argument, which is one of the reasons why part of the Chevening application process is indeed writing, to demonstrate your writing skills.
But would they need to actually take the TOEFL examination, or there's a separate test for Chevening?
So there is a separate test for Chevening. There's a process where you have to fill in sets. There's an application form online, and you write an essay online. Okay. And then the other side of it, the TOEFL or the IELTS requirements, will tend to come from universities.
Okay, all right. So let's get to the final bit. Looking at UK and Nigerian trade relations, you just made mention that a system has been made to facilitate and improve trade relations. Obviously, people can export products at a cheaper rate, and also having UK interest businesses that like to invest directly in Nigeria and in River State in particular. But beyond just nice words and diplomatic handshakes. People would like to get to feel practical experiences. People complain. I have friends who complain that if they're going to send things from the UK down to Nigeria, or Nigeria to UK, there's a lot of bureaucratic bottlenecks. So what exactly needs to be done?
Well, let me start off with some numbers to actually show you how good the situation is. So last year there was £7.6 billion worth of trade between our two countries. And of that, £4.3 billion was goods coming from the UK into Nigeria. Okay. And then the £3.3 billion was Nigerian goods going out to the UK. That's a 50% increase, just under a 50% increase on the previous year. So already there is real increase. And what I should say is the biggest part of that increase came from the exports that Nigeria made into the UK. So that's generating profits, generating benefits for the Nigerian economy. You talk about sort of practicalities. I mean, the other thing that we're doing on top of this developing countries trading scheme, which is a fantastic new opportunity, we are running in April an African investment summit in the UK.
That's April of next year.
April of next year.
Okay.
It's an African investment summit, and the intention is for it to be a matchmaking opportunity between businesses and investors. And the president, His Excellency President Tinubu, has been invited to that, and we hope that he will bring a delegation with him. And that will be a place where Nigerian businesses, Nigerian investors will meet with British businesses and British investors, and hopefully we can make some new relationships start there. One bit I'm particularly excited about there is, this is the second time we've done it, but this time we're going to add a creatives side event, and that's going to be led by Nigeria. So the rest of it is Africa-wide, and there will be a Nigerian element, but the creatives bit will be led because Nigeria has such a strong creatives industry. No,
indeed. It's vast, it's ever-evolving, ever-growing. All right, so Mr. Johnny Baxter, my guest this morning, he is the British Deputy High Commissioner from Lagos here, and taking his tour, his first time. So before we'll say our goodbyes, a couple of questions I need to ask you. First and foremost, it has to be, during your stay in East Africa, what was the cuisine like? Did you really immerse yourself in the experience?
Yes, I did. So I don't know how many of your listeners have been to East Africa. There's quite a big difference between the coastal region and then the interior. And the coastal region, actually a bit like Nigeria, has got a lot of spices, a lot of hot food.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. The further in you go, the food becomes a bit more bland, but it's still good and still interesting. And I ate things like sudza, which I don't know whether anyone will ever have heard of, but in Zimbabwe it's a starch, it's a maize, and it's a bit like fufu, which I think is a Western.
Very similar, yeah.
Right.
Very similar.
So yes, I know I really enjoyed the cuisine there.
Okay, all right. So it's been about 6 weeks now. You made mention of plantains. I'm very sure your team probably has introduced some of the delicacies and how they are made. Plantains. You've tried plantains?
I've had plantains many of times.
Many
yes.
times. Okay, back in Zimbabwe.
Back in the East Africa, but here as well.
Okay, all right. So, have you had it with fish?
I have had it with fish, yes.
Oh, okay, all right, because you need to. If you don't, you haven't lived, right? But you need to. Okay, all right, so you had food. All right, so those are my two questions for my guest. I don't know if you're a sporting fan. You're a sports fan?
I'm a little bit of a sports fan. Odd sports sometimes.
What, cricket?
I like cricket, yeah. I know, I'm British.
I figured you were a cricket man. Let me see. New Hamptonshire, by chance?
I actually only really have time to follow the national level, so follow England.
Okay, so abroad and all the rest. Okay, all right. But you're no way interested in football?
I'm a little bit interested in football, and my son is very interested in Arsenal, so I do have to track Arsenal.
You need to help him. He needs to get a better club. Try Liverpool.
Well, that's a very difficult one. As long as it's good you didn't say Tottenham, though.
Oh, no. Nobody goes to Tottenham. Nobody goes to Tottenham. Nobody. All right, so today we have the Champions League coming up. Jude Bellingham is obviously going to be featuring for Real Madrid. Hopefully his start continues. 6 goals in 7 games for the Englishman. Who knows, that may continue. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. All the information you need, you have to go to the website, particularly for the chevening process. Do you by chance have the British High Commission website with you?
I don't actually. Sorry, I should have done. But we can pass it on to you, and you can pass it on to your listeners.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, so my guest this morning, Mr. Johnny Baxter, thank you very much. The Deputy High Commissioner here. Next time I see you, I'd like to see you in something more comfortable and traditional.
I would like that as well. I will look forward to it. I'll go and visit some Nigerian fashion designers.
Okay, fingers crossed.
Mr.
Baxter, thank you very much for joining us. All right, so our survey and our surgeon ends this morning. Do have yourself a wonderful day. The afternoon crew comes up very shortly with the sunny side of conversation, but not before the news. And like I said earlier on, football is coming up later this evening. Will Real Madrid do a good one over their opponents? Arsenal will be playing host to PSV. Heaven help them. But anywho, the Sports Gang will take you all on that journey from about 7:45 p.m. Stay tuned right here, 92.3 Nigeria Info. Good morning.